Feeling Pinkie Mean by Rainbow Bob. Chapter 4. A fun game. Not really. Okay, moving on to question 85. What was the main source of commodity for the Crystal Empire during your reign? Twilight asked, staring intently at Sombra while she dipped her quill in a fresh inkwell nearby the scroll she was writing in. Sombra groaned, heading his crossed forelegs on the table before him.
Oh, this is torture!
No, this is research, Twilight corrected him. Now, what's the answer?
The shadowy abyss of dread that I was locked in for 1,000 years was better than this,
Sombra muttered under his breath, staring back up to glare at the bookish alicorn.
Try and take a wild guess at what the main commodity of the Crystal Empire would be.
Twilight huffed. Come, no need to be too testy.
The need to be tested came and went after question number 40. Now I'm just annoyed,
Sombra said, scowling harder in an effort to direct more of his disdain at her.
Can this suffering end sometime soon?
Twilight shook her head. I just need a few more questions. Sombra slammed his steel-clad hoof on the table, the wood bending under the force.
By the 9th pit of Tartarus, will you shut your mouth and be gone from my presence?
Sombra's hoof was encased in a bright purplish light, lifting the appendage up in the air as Twilight's frown deepened. First off, you do not need to break the furniture in my house, Twilight started, releasing her magic hold on his hoof. Secondly, as long as you live in my house, you abide by my rules, meaning I can ask you as many questions as I please.
You heartless banshee,
Sombra muttered, yanking his hoof away and rubbing it tenderly. Does someone want to go to the basement again? Sombra waved his hoof in the air.
Ah, make threats that at least scare me somewhat, as well as some you actually stick by. You're too much of a goody little princess to stick me back in there for something as pretentious as not answering your insufferable questions.
Then I could always take away your dessert instead, Twilight pointed out, closing her eyes in contempt while smirking just as Sombra's face fell in an open-jawed, shocked expression. Closing his mouth, he said through gritted teeth, You wouldn't dare. Opening her eyes up, she arched an eyebrow at the ex-tyrant and said, Just try me. The tension in the room mounted dramatically, with Sombra's excessive ego clashing with Twilight's more humble personality. So much so, the two were practically snarling in one another's faces, which was a good reason Spike had departed from the two in a wise decision of not getting involved in any conflict that could potentially occur. Just as Sombra was about to reply with a comment explaining to Twilight in vivid detail just where she could cram her next question, Pinkie decided to burst through the door in her usual explosion of noise and confetti. Hello everybody, what's happening? Pinkie asked, the pair jolly as can be, despite the two spiteful rivals currently trying to destroy each other with their eyes right in front of her. Twilight shrugged, brushing a lock of purple mane out of her eye as she stared down at her scroll. Oh, nothing much, Pinkie. I was just asking Sombra here some questions. He was glad to answer.
Lies! You bribed me to answer those questions on the promise of pudding, which I have still not received in lieu of the agreement.
Sombra countered, pointing an accusing hoof at Twilight.
The promise of this mystical chocolate treat with a gooey texture will never be fulfilled from a no-good liar such as yourself.
Oh, and I'm the no-good one here, huh? Twilight asked, lifting up the scroll she had just written in. And who here enslaved his entire people and made an army of darkness to take over the entire world?
At least I didn't lie about it,
Sombra countered, holding her hoof to his chest.
I have pride for my evil accomplishments, thank you very much.
That doesn't seem like something you should be very proud of, Pinkie said, as she hopped in a chair and scooted over closer to Sombra. Like I'm proud of the fact that I'm the #1 cupcake eater in town. Oh, and that with bubblegum, I can blow the biggest bubble ever! And even the fact that I can stretch my tongue really, really long.
Fine, fine. We get the point.
Sombra groaned, gritting his teeth hard as he grimaced at the over-rambunctious pink mare.
End your insistent babbling this minute.
Sombra, Twilight shouted. Sombra held up his hoofs in the air in defence.
Hey, at least I didn't tell her to shut up. Doesn't that count for anything?
Not if you're going to be rude about it, Twilight replied, glowering at Sombra's crass behaviour. It's okay, Twilight, Pinkie assured her, reaching out to tap on her hoof supportively. I'm used to Sombra being a bit grumpy. Sombra's head hit the desk, deep breathing being heard flaring in and out of his nostrils.
For the last time!
Sombra lifted his head and stared at Pinkie with a livid, altogether psychotic expression.
My name is Sombra! Do you need me to spell it out for you? S-O-M-B-R-A. Not once does Y appear there, so unless you want me to carve it into your thick skull, address me correctly.
The room was cast back into a tense silence, though this one was quickly broken by Sombra's cry of pain.
Ow!
He shouted, rubbing at the pain that had suddenly afflicted his ear. Glancing to Twilight and her glowing horn, he put two and two together and asked,
What was that for?
You threatened my friend, so you got punished, Twilight said, rolling up her scroll in a nonchalant manner. So, I gave you a punishment fit for a foal.
By twisting my ear?
Twilight smiled. Why, yes, indeed. It took a few seconds for this insult to sink in. When it finally did, he was reaching over the table to strangle Twilight, while Pinkie tried her best to hold him back.
I will destroy you, burn your body and the entire village to the ground as I slaughter the lot of them and enslave the rest. Your life shall end by my hoof, you incompetent and inferior mare.
Sombra, please sit down, Pinkie begged, finally able to pull him back to his seat when Twilight's magic forced him to be seated again. Staring between the two and their hate-filled glares at one another, Pinkie felt extremely awkward being at the epicenter of their glares. Luckily, she had just the thing to fix that. Who wants to play a fun game? Pinkie asked, throwing down a board game she somehow pulled out of nowhere.
Where did you even acquire such a thing?
Sombra asked, staring at the rectangular box with a scrutinous glare.
You didn't even walk in with it.
Don't try to overthink it, Sombra, Twilight said with a bit of a snark, shaking her head to Pinkie. And count me out, Pinkie. I see this as a much better opportunity for you two to bond. I'll be doing some studying in the meantime. Twilight departed from the pair, leaving the mystified king and excited party mare alone. Dusting off his cape, Sombra took to all fours to leave as well.
Whatever. This game is... count me out of it. A king would never do something so foolish, especially with a mare like you.
If you want, we can continue with the questionnaire, Twilight called out from the table across the room, listening several scrolls up in the air with her magic. I just find your pony's culture and timeline far too intriguing to pass up the opportunity to learn more. Sombra sat back down.
Due to new complications, I shall partake in this so-called fun game with you,
Sombra said, peering intently at the box, with the cartoonish stallion figure dressed up in the fancy suit, top hat, and trademark white moustache.
Now, how exactly do we play it?
It's quite simple, really. Pinkie opened the box and dumped out its contents. Dice, game pieces, different coloured bits, a square fold-out game board, a plethora of plastic housing figures, and cards that had the print, chance, and community chest on them. This game is called Monopony, and it's all about real estate. Both of us buy up different properties, sell stuff, do auctions, viciously land grab, anything we can get our greedy hooves on. Open up overpriced houses and hotels, and even win the occasional beauty pageant for a meagre reward. Oh, and the point of the game is to force the other player to go bankrupt and lose any financial gain they have worked so hard to afford to acquire. Doesn't that sound like fun?
It does not matter whether it's fun or not,
Sombra said, digging through the pile of game pieces until he picked out his piece of choice, a thimble.
All that matters is whether I win.
In a flash, Pinkie had the game all set up, her own piece of a cupcake at the starting position. Silly, it doesn't matter whether you win or not. It's all about having fun, Pinkie said, clopping her hooves together in her eagerness for the game.
That's what you say now,
Sombra told her, picking up the dice and giving them a good shake in his hoof before releasing them on the table.
But just wait and see how badly you're defeated when I'm done with you. You dirty cheater!
Sombra shouted with spiteful rage, flipping the game board over the table to result in game pieces and bits to fly across the floor. Hey, I wasn't cheating, Pinkie whined, pointing a hoof directly in his face. You are the one who can't handle losing.
I wouldn't be losing if you hadn't cheated like an adulterous mare with her husband,
Sombra spat back, slapping a hoof away from his view. Crossing her hooves, she arched a brow at him and asked, "Then explain to me, Mr. Sore Loser, how exactly I cheated?"
I don't know of how exactly,
Sombra said, glancing to the left and right in a nervous habit.
But I do know your credibility towards games for me hasn't been shattered over the transgressions that have taken place.
Pinkie stuck her tongue out. "You're just jealous because you suck at real estate."
I'm a king,
Sombra shouted, pointing her hoof high up in the air.
I deal with real estates on a daily basis, buying, or more likely conquering land, selling off slums and ghettos to high rollers, to make factories to bind the poor with cheap labour and unhealthy living conditions, and most importantly, collecting improbably high amounts of taxes.
Okay then, real estate expert, where does stuffing down bits in your armour sleeves come in the real estate game? Pinkie Pie asked, noticing bits falling on the table from where Sombra raised his hoof. Drawing his hoof back with the sweat beading upon his forehead, he muttered,
How dare you accuse me of king of royal bloodline of doing something as petty as cheating at a board game? For shame upon you! For shame!
Getting up from her seat, Pinkie shrugged, still smiling at all the while, even after Sombra's behaviour. Fine, if you don't want to play fairly, we don't have to play at all. And here I thought we could go out to Ponyville for a nice walk. But if you're too much of a sore loser to go...
Ha! Like I'd ever go out in public with some pony as uncultured as you!
Sombra laughed, grinning smugly. That means you're staying here with me, Twilight called out from the table, the Alicorn Princess holding a wider range of scrolls and books in her magical grip. I was thinking that we can continue with the research of the Crystal Empire while also schooling you in modern world mannerisms and knowledge. Plus, we can even go through the 1,000-year time gap of history you missed out. Twilight smiled broadly at Sombra's fearful frown. Doesn't that sound exciting?
On second thought,
Sombra turned back to Pinkie and declared,
take me out of the town. It's about time I derelict masses know once more of my return to greatness.
Hey, Twilight, can I take Sombra out for a walk? Pinkie called over the king's shoulder. Only if you put him on a leash, Twilight yelled, both men snickering at the joke, while Sombra drooped lower in his seat, holding back more giggles. Twilight said, I suppose now it's as good as ever to show Sombra around Ponyville. Every pony was going to find out about his return eventually, and Celestia did say it's up to my judgment when to reveal him. So, yes, you can take him out, as long as he behaves.
I'm not just some fool you two can boss around,
Sombra objected, stomping his hoof in the ground with bitter resentment. Then stop acting like one, Twilight said, returning the books and scrolls she was holding back to her desk, tapping her hoof to her chin for a moment. Twilight said, oh, and Sombra, do try to not escape, Pinkie, or the borders of Ponyville. I still have that magical signal traced on you, if you ever decide to. You'd rather not enjoy what happens if you do. Frowning at her ominous warning, Sombra shrugged and got up, turning to Pinkie to ask,
So, shall we depart from this wretched house of learning already?
Only if you Pinkie promise not to be rude or mean to her. Any pony we meet in Ponyville, Pinkie told him, bouncing near the door for him to hurry up.
What in blazes is a Pinkie promise?
Sombra asked, joining her beside the door. Cross my heart, hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my eye, Pinkie said, crossing her heart with a hoof, flapping her wrists in the air to mimic flying and actually shoving a hoof in her eye. Gagging at the disturbing sight of her hoof in her eye socket, Sombra said,
I'm not going to do that.
Then I guess no outside time, Pinkie said with a shrug, opening the door. A tempting ray of sunshine fell into the library, and the distant sound of ponies going about their daily business with birds chirping in the air could be heard in the distance. Sound Sombra hadn't heard in centuries. Gritting so hard, he was sure he was going to crack a molar. Sombra gulped and muttered barely above a whisper,
Cross my heart, hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my freaking eye.
Silly head, you have to do the hoof motions too, Pinkie said, shoving a hoof into her eye hole once more. Like this!
Take it or leave it,
Sombra replied, his dignity quickly falling to all new levels the more time he spent with the insufferable Pinkie Pie. Okie dokie dokie. Open the door wide. Pinkie bounced out the library. Sombra followed, falling begrudgingly behind. We're just gonna have so much fun.
The hindsight's going to hit me hard on this.
Sombra reflected, already dreading his decision.
I'm just sure of it.